Hey, also thanks for tuning into another video. This video is about control. So if you're a control freak, stay tuned. Before I get involved in the content, I just want to say that if you love this sweatshirt, it says prayer is my love language, has a really dope graffiti crown on the back, you can get it at the link attached from Remnant Clothing Co. So if you're one of those people who feel like you have to stay in control of the situation, but you're also someone who believes firmly in God and the biblical principles that He's in control of everything, this message is for you. If you're somebody who thinks that you do let Him take control and you do believe in Him controlling your life and you feel like you trust Him and you're still trying to control things and you don't understand why you do it, this episode is for you. And if you're just a control freak and you don't know why, this episode is for you. So, if you want to stay in control, the main reason why is because you don't trust the environment. So if you think about when you walk into an unknown territory, right? You want to stay in control. You want to stay in control because you don't trust the circumstances of the territory that you're in. And the reason you don't trust the circumstances is because you don't know them. It's a foreign place. You're in a new restaurant, you're in a new city, you're in a new space, you're in the airport, you're in spaces that aren't something that you frequent often, or spaces that aren't yours, that you don't own them. They are unfamiliar and unpredictable. And so you want to stay in control. And there's healthy reasons for that too, because you want to be hyper vigilant to make sure that if anything happens, you have an exit strategy, etc. All of those are healthy concepts. But what happens when you're in your own space, you're in your own life, you're in your own house, you're in your own relationship, and you want to remain in control? What is happening when you're doing that? Well, one of the things that's happening is you trust your own abilities over the other person. So if you feel like you need to stay in control of the relationship, of, your parenting household, you need to control it for it to be in order. The reason that that's happening is if I'm trying to control my relationship, if I'm dictating what the other partner needs to be doing, I'm trying to change them, I'm trying to mold them, I want them to be a certain person. I'm turning on podcasts just so they'll listen to it, not in a hey, we should listen to this podcast together kind of way, but you really should listen to this, but I'm going to turn it on so you hear the message and hope that you absorb it kind of way. If you're doing that, it's because you don't trust the other person's abilities. You don't trust them to treat you the way that you want to be treated. And so therefore the relationship's probably not going to work in your brain. If they don't do what you need them to do, the relationship isn't going to work. If they don't do it the way you need them to do it, then the relationship isn't going to work. And this can go down to things such as loading the dishwasher, right? You'll make it something that you need to control because you don't trust the other person's ability to do it the quote unquote right way, even though your way isn't the only way. And the reason that it happens with your kids is because you don't trust them to learn the lessons that you're teaching them. So you don't trust that if they make mistakes, they're going to learn from them. And your brain, somehow you've resolved that if they do this thing and they don't listen to you, that it's going to end their life and it's going to be the end of the world, even though you probably didn't listen to your parents and somehow you found your way by learning from your mistakes. So if you don't trust the other person's abilities, then you're always going to try to move the pieces of this game of life yourself. You're not going to trust that somebody else can roll their own dice and move their own playing piece. And you can control other people. That's the long and short of the situation. Even when it comes to your kids, like when they hit the age of 10, 11 years old, they start to have their own internal workings. They start to develop their own thoughts. They start to develop their own ways, and you can guide them, shape, and mold them, but you can't force them and control them, because then they start to rebel because they don't have any individual autonomy to do anything on their own. So when you're doing that, what you're telling yourself is, I'm the only one who knows how to do anything right. And sometimes that's not the case. Loading the dishwasher a different way might still get the dishes clean, and maybe it won't, and they have to run the dishwasher again. But if the dishes in the end get clean, if the outcome is the same outcome, then you didn't necessarily have to even say anything. They would have figured it out. I understand that disappointment from the past will get you there, and we'll talk about that in a second. And that some people just don't do the things that they say they're going to do. And so that plays into this as well. But even then, the part that you can control is whether or not you allow those people in your life. The part that I can control about the fact that my kids take forever to get ready in the morning is making sure that there's a consequence if they're not out in the car when they're supposed to be, and also ensuring that they understand why they need to wake up at a certain time, why they need to do the things that they need to do, because if it takes them 40 minutes to get ready, then we're going to have to set an alarm for 40 minutes before it's time to walk out the door. So setting up the structures to make sure they're successful is one thing. But controlling the situation to the point where you're being authoritative all the time and they have zero autonomy will backfire. Absolutely will. I've seen it. I have a 22-year-old, almost 23, a 12, almost 13, and a 6, almost 7-year-old. And so I kind of have done this and I understand that that is the case. So you have to trust their abilities. You have to trust that their mistakes will lead them to some sort of resolution. The other thing is that you're trusting your plan over God's. Because if you've planned out something and somehow that plan goes haywire, if you automatically just say, oh my gosh, I need to control this, I need to make a new plan, instead of thinking, I wonder how that happened. I wonder what God's plan was in this situation, then you're trusting that your plan is better than his. If you're asking him questions like, why haven't you done this for me yet? Because you had a plan for something and he hasn't given it to you, then what you're really saying is, I had a plan for this and I trust this plan over yours. And the reason that I have to control the situation is that I feel like this is what I need over what your plan is for my purpose. And I've done this before. So when you think that it's your time to get married, when you think it's your time to have kids, you do that thinking that, okay, I want this right now, and I'm going to insert person into this space to make it happen. And then it ends poorly because God's plan was greater than yours. And because you needed control, you put yourself in that position to have control over the situation instead of being able to be patient for his plan. And the last part of it is you trust your experience over his sovereignty. When you think about the fact that God knows everything, your plan from start to finish, the number of hairs on your head, and if you're anything like me and your hair falls out in clumps in the shower and he still knows the amount of hairs that are on your head, that's a pretty sovereign experience, right? And so he knows all of the things about you, but yet and still we question him and we think that our experience has given us more wisdom than his sovereignty gives him over our life. And so if we really trust him, when something doesn't happen the way that we want it to, when something doesn't go the way that we think it should go, instead of questioning, why would you let this happen? Why is this experience happening this way? Why won't you just give me what I want? We should really be saying, God, I know you're a sovereign God. And I know that you know the amount of hairs on my head and you know the plan that you had for me and you crafted me in my mother's womb wonderfully and you knew exactly what my life was going to be purposed to be, and you're sovereign and you have all the answers, and I'm going to trust you and I'm going to lean on you. We say, but I want this thing, so I think you should give it to me. So what do we need to do when we feel like we need to control everything to the point where we can't let anybody act in their own capabilities and abilities? Well, the first thing is check your conditioning. Who let you down? If you've had experiences throughout your life where you were let down so many times that you don't trust anybody's yes, you can't place your past experiences on your present people because they're not the same people. You have to base what you know about a person off of that person and their action or inaction. And if they continuously let you down, then guess what you're in control of? Allowing them in your space. You don't have to allow those type of people in your space, but you can't control whether they're going to follow through or whether they're not. And eventually, if you try to control a situation with somebody who has the autonomy and ability to give you what you need, but now they feel controlled, so they feel emasculated or they feel like you don't really value them, then they're going to end up leaving anyway because you won't let them be them inside of your space. So when you really think about, why am I trying to control this situation? Perhaps the reason that you're trying to control it is because your conditioning from the past has told you that you can't count on people and they're just going to let you down. Wait for the person that you're dealing with to give you those characteristics so that you know whether they're going to let you down over and over again. And this has been something that I've had to struggle with because in all of my past relationships, people have let me down. They said they're going to do something that they don't do. They said they're going to be somebody that they're not. And so when being in a healthy space, it's been really hard for me to say, oh, he's going to do what he says he's going to do. Oh, he's going to show up even when he didn't say he was going to show up. He's going to show up somehow. And it's hard for you to accept that when you've always been in a space where people don't show up and they've always let you down and they don't always do what they say they're going to do. But you have to base what you know about people off of their action and inaction, and not the action and inaction from the people in your past. The second is, we have to stop giving God characteristics of man. So when you think about the people who let you down in your past, especially if it was a father figure, oftentimes we tend to give those same characteristics to God. Well, he forgot about me. He didn't give me this thing because he's punishing me. He let me down because he doesn't want me to have it. He doesn't want me to experience joy with this thing. He doesn't think I'm good enough to have this thing. Those are all characteristics of people, and they're characteristics of people from your past. They're not characteristics of our loving and sovereign God. So if he's not giving you something, he works things out for the greater good of those who love him and act in according to his will and purpose. And so if you're acting in according to his will and purpose and he's not giving you that thing, it's because it's not for your greater good in that moment. He needs you to have something, know something, or be something before he can give it to you successfully so that it ends up the way that it's supposed to. And so when we place people characteristics on God, what we're doing is taking away his divinity. And a divine being like God is not like the people that you see here on earth. So you have to understand what is true about him. And when you read your word, you will see those things. And his sovereignty is one of those truths. He knows what's happening in your life, and he's ordered and ordained it to be exactly what you're supposed to be purposed to do. And the last is, you have to believe in his love over your comfort. You know, it's interesting because when we love our kids, sometimes we don't do what they want. Sometimes we don't do what's comfortable to them. Sometimes we have to tell them no. But yet, when God doesn't do what we want, he doesn't do what's comfortable to us, and he tells us no, we equate that as him not loving us. The reality is, your discomfort is sometimes his greatest love. Sometimes he's telling you to leave a space. It's uncomfortable, but he's loving you. He's loving you by telling you to leave. Sometimes he's telling you no to the thing that you want more than anything else, but he's loving you because he's doing it. The same way that when you love your kids, you have to do those same things. So you can't do it as a parent, but then equate it to a lack of love when it comes to God, because the reality is, even as much as you love your own kids, because he doesn't have people characteristics, he has divine characteristics, he loves you even more than that. So if he's keeping something from you, if he's telling you no, not yet, if he's saying yes to this thing, but you're not going to have it when you think you're going to have it, doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. It just means that he knows what's going to happen if he gives it to you right now, and he wants you to be able to have it and experience joy with it. So he has to hold on to it until later. So if you're in a space where you're trying to control everything, I would encourage you to really check your conditioning, to really check if you're giving God the characteristics of people, and to really check if you're assessing that he doesn't love you because he's not giving you what you want in the moment. Because he loves you, he's sovereign over your life, he knows the plans for your life, and he's enacting those plans so that you can have what's best for you, even when you don't know what that thing is. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel on all of my social media platforms at Carrie Nicole _. I appreciate you guys. And remember, wisdom kept to yourself is selfish. Wisdom shared with other people is what's going to get us out of bondage. And that's really what I'm here for, to share my story in hopes that the things that I've experienced will in turn help you to experience what freedom is like. Because when we align ourselves with what God says is for us and who God says we are, and we understand who he is, our lives change from a place of bondage and chaos to a place of freedom. And my hope is that you too can get there as well. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys again next time.